Welcome to today's news wrap up. Let's dive right into the top stories making headlines today. The Department of Justice recently made public over 700 pages of documents related to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, which looked into alleged ties between Russia and the Trump campaign in 2016. We know this was all just so they could have a reason to try to take out Trump. But these records were released in response to a Freedom of Information Act request and shed light on the FBI's handling of the controversial probe. Key details include communications and investigative steps taken by the FBI, offering insight into the decision-making process during the high-profile case. The release has sparked renewed debate about the investigation's origins and its political implications. Critics argue the documents highlight flaws in the FBI's approach, which others see them as essential for understanding the broader context of the Russia allegations. The disclosure marks a significant step towards transparency in a case that continues to divide public opinion. I don't know why. We all know what the FBI was doing. It was trying to set up Trump. Shouldn't be a divide there. We all saw it. We all know it. Investor Kevin O'Leary has called for the delisting of Chinese stocks from U.S. markets, arguing that between 500 billion and 700 billion in market capitalization should be removed to pressure Beijing. His comments follow China's decision to raise tariffs on American imports from 84% to 125%, further escalating the ongoing trade war. O'Leary criticized Chinese companies for failing to comply with U.S. financial regulations, claiming they raise money through shadow shares without proper oversight. He urged the SEC to enforce stricter standards, ensuring all publicly traded companies meet transparency requirements. Meanwhile, China responded to U.S. tariff increases by denouncing them as, quote, unilateral bullying and coercion, but stated it would not retaliate further. The intensifying economic conflict highlights broader concerns over trade policies and market integrity. Representative James Clyburn praised Kamala Harris as a strong political figure, expressing disappointment in her campaign team for failing to support her effectively in the 2024 election. I kind of agree with him. I agree that his campaign team was terrible. This is what happened when you don't hire people for merit. You just check off people on lists because of their sexual orientation or their race. This is what you get. But I disagree with him on when he stated that Kamala Harris was a strong political figure. That's a joke. Everyone sees her interviews and know how incompetent she is. She can't even explain why. She couldn't even explain why she was different from President Biden. I mean, she was a terrible candidate. But he emphasized that Harris had the potential to be a great candidate and suggested that if advisors had listened to political veterans like Bill Clinton, her strategy might have been stronger. A new book reveals that Harris was deeply shocked by her loss and initially believed she had a solid chance of winning. Some campaign staffers felt misled about her standing in the race, claiming they were assured of positive prospects before the election. Harris has reportedly told friends that she could have won if she had entered the race earlier or if President Biden had stepped aside. Don't believe that. We don't believe that. The discussion highlights ongoing reflections with the Democratic Party about strategy and leadership decisions. Freshman Senator Dave McCormick, a Pennsylvania Republican, has introduced a Senate resolution to impose term limits on members of Congress, partnering with Rep. Brian Fitzpatrick to push for a maximum of 12 years of service in each chamber. I think it should be 8, but I'll settle for 12. The proposal allows senators 2 6-year terms. Oh, yeah, I forgot the terms are 6 years. That's right. Senators 2 6-year terms and representatives 6 2-year terms. But it only applies to those elected after the 118th Congress, increasing his chances of passing. McCormick, who defeated a long-serving incumbent and pledged to serve only 2 terms himself, aims to challenge entrenched political careers. Public support for term limits is strong, with surveys showing most Americans favor restricting congressional tenure. The resolution reflects a broader movement to curb the influence of career politicians in Washington. However, passing such a measure faces hurdles due to resistance from lawmakers benefiting from the current system, of course. The Federal Election Commission has launched an investigation into Representative Jasmine Crockett, a Texas Democrat, over concerns about campaign donations processed through Act Blue, a major Democratic fundraising platform. Y'all know I reported on Act Blue in the past about some of the fraud that's been going on there. And I've also been reporting on crazy Jasmine Crockett and some of the outlandish things she's been saying as of late. But a conservative group filed a complaint alleging that Crockett's campaign received suspicious contributions, including 53 donations totaling $595 from a 73-year-old Texas resident whose wife claims no knowledge of the transaction. The campaign reportedly collected over $870,000 through Act Blue, raising questions about potential unauthorized or fraudulent donations. The probe follows broader scrutiny of Act Blue by Republican lawmakers and state officials for possible weakness in donor verification. Critics suggest the investigation could reveal systemic issues with online fundraising platforms. Crockett team has not publicly commented on the allegations. The Department of Justice has created a new task force to defend Second Amendment rights, focusing on protecting lawful gun ownership and usage. I'm all for it. This initiative aims to counter perceived overreach by federal and state authorities in restricting firearms access. The task force will review existing gun laws, address legal challenges, and ensure compliance with constitutional protections. It responds to growing concerns among gun rights activists about regulations infringing on their freedom. Critics argue it may complicate efforts to curb gun violence. I don't think so. While supporters see it as a necessary safeguard, the move signals a shift towards prioritizing individual rights in firearm policy debates. California's community college financial aid system is losing millions to scammers using AI tools like ChatGPT to pose as students. This is wild. Fraudsters enroll, claim federal Pell Grants worth up to $7,400, and vanish with over $10 million in federal and $3 million in state funds stolen last year. About 34% of applicants are suspected to be fake, exploiting lax identity verification processes. This is because California don't really want to check people's identification because they want to allow illegal immigrants to come in and benefit from the system. That's what, and fraudsters know this and they took advantage of this. Faculty are frustrated, acting as detectives to spot real students, while legitimate students lose class seats to bots. The state has invested in cybersecurity, but scammers adapt quickly, worsening the problem. Again, because the whole system is made to allow illegal immigrants to come in and get some of these benefits. This is why they're taking how they can take advantage of that. Until California does something about this, they're going to be able to continue to steal money. A Florida teacher was fired for using a student preferred name and pronouns without parental consent, violating state law. I mean, this is state law. The parents have a right to know. The incident occurred at a public school where the teacher disregarded the student's legal name on the roster. Florida's Parental Rights and Education Act requires parental approval for such actions, prioritizing family involvement in gender identity matters. The teacher terminated sparked the debate, with some arguing it protects parental rights and others claiming it stifles student expression. The school district emphasized compliance with state regulations in this decision. The case highlights ongoing tension over gender policies in education. Lastly, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison met with individuals tied to the Feeding Our Future fraud case weeks before an FBI raid, discussing concerns over state scrutiny of their nonprofits and restaurants. The meeting included at least 2 future defendants, who openly supported elected officials focused on protecting communities of color. During the discussion, Ellison acknowledged the nonprofit's lawsuit against the Minnesota Department of Education and offered to call agency officials to demand explanations. His office later claimed it played a key role in feeding our future accountable. Yeah, right. We all know Democrats love fraud. But an FBI affidavit credited the state's education department for flagging concerns. Following the meeting, Ellison accepted campaign contributions from several individuals connected to the fraud case. Federal prosecutors have charged 70 defendants in the scheme, with 44 already convicted or pleading guilty. Well, that's all for today's news wrap up. Stay tuned for more updates and don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for the latest news. Until next time, peace.